again, thank you all for your commitment to the community, to volunteer your time and effort, having served on different boards in Anthem. I do know that it is a commitment, and we do appreciate it. We know that it takes you away from your family and some of the things that you want to do at times, so it is appreciated. And we have some questions from the audience, and we have some questions that you have been presented with ahead of time. Introduce themselves. Yeah. So what we'd like you to do is just take a couple of minutes and familiarize us as to who you are, how long you've lived in Anthem, why you want to be on the board, and just some things that you feel it would be good for us to know about you personally. And we'll start over here with you, Jeff.
Sure. My name is Jeff Huff. I live at 44634 North Sonora Royal Lane. I live in the new community of Circle Mountain Ranch. I've been there for about 2 years. I'm also an active real estate agent at Century 21. You can probably throw a rock and hit my place of business right across the street. I also am on the Chamber of Commerce and enjoy living in Anthem. I work, play, and live in Anthem. Thank you.
My name is Doug Sutherland. I'm a 10-year resident of Anthem on the west side. I have been a member of the Parkside Board for 5 years, 3 years as a president of the board. And for you candidates, let me say thank you very much for your interest. This is the largest group of candidates that the Parkside Board has ever put together, and I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm term limited, otherwise I'd be sitting over there. I believe that all of us should have a real interest in our community. I've been interested in every community that I've ever lived in, and as such, I have been an elected official for over 30 years. I was a mayor of the city of Tacoma. I was the first city manager of the city of SeaTac. I was a county executive, and I was a commissioner of public lands for the state of Washington. In each of those positions, I served 2 terms, 8 years altogether in each of those positions. So I'm delighted in my community, our community, and quite frankly, there's lots yet to do. And I'm delighted to be offering my experience to the citizens of Anthem to keep our community going and growing. Thank you.
All right, I'm Alex O'Bass. I moved to Anthem about 3 years, going on 3 years, 2.5 years ago. I've been living here. My family lives in Anthem. We hang out in Anthem. We eat in Anthem like this guy. You know, we're involved in the community. So I like to meet my family, my wife and I like to volunteer. I figured it was a great way to give back. To be more involved in the community, get to know community members, see what's really going on. Currently I work for USAA. I work in the IT risk compliance group just down the street. Prior to that I worked for JP Morgan, licensed builder, contractor. I have a diverse background. I have an MBA, so I think just my background, my knowledge, my skill set would allow me to become would allow me to help build the community, keep the growth going, sustain the good things that we have in the community, and just looking forward to possibly being a part of, you know, the growing stuff to grow.
I'm Rob McGregor. I'm a relatively new transplant, being here only a year, but I'm very passionate about this community. I love it, and I'm raising 4 children here, and my wife of 20 years is also here. She couldn't make it. She's off in Seattle working. But I'm very active in local community things already. Pickleball group is one. In my previous residences, I was a member of governance boards. For example, we in Roseville, California, where I came from, there was a major $110 tax initiative that passed, and I demanded that there be a citizens oversight committee and made sure that I participated in that. So we were responsible for dispersing, you know, negotiating with the city and the schools and dispersing $110 million worth of money, which is a very serious matter. But on a lighter side, I've always been involved with kids and coaching, and so I have deep roots in every community that I've lived in. I love this town, like I said before, and I want to do everything I can to sort of carry the baton forward because our lives are going to sunset here, so I'll be here for the next 4 years. God willing.
I'm Sherry Miller. We've lived in the landing here in Parkside for over 15 years. I have volunteered for 13, 14 years on many, many committees. And right now I am on the ARC committee. I also was a former Parkside Board member as secretary. I want to keep up our goals and we're all property owners here. And we want to see the values go up. And that's what an HOA actually does. It does, if you live in an HOA, your home values rise faster than if you don't. That's about it. I know all the governing documents and I volunteer. Thank you.
I'm Paul Nugent. I've been living in Anthem for about 12 years now. In and out of Parkside, between Parkside and the village. I'm a groundskeeper here in Anthem with Yards by Paul, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. I started out as an educator and transitioned to groundskeeping one summer between teaching jobs, and just that kind of took off, and I'm really enjoying the active work with that, while also still teaching online. So as far as my purpose, I think this is my second try for the board. I ran for the position about 5 years ago. And so at this time I really feel like it's a real urgent need in me to serve and use my full capacities, my education and my experience to serve the community.
I'm Robert Omer. I just moved to Parkside from the country club. I've been here since February 2009. And when I showed up with my U-Haul truck and wondered where the hell I moved to. But thank you all for being here tonight. This is great. I'm amazed at the turnout. So I'm a CASA. Some of you may not know what that means, but a court-appointed special advocate. So I'm a volunteer member of the Supreme Court of Arizona. And I help kids that have lost their families. So some poor cop showed up at their doorstep with a black bag and took a few sets of clothes and walked them out the door, and their whole life turned upside down. And I try to help those kids. So I also work with the Foothills Food Bank, and I deliver snack packs to the kids. As some of you may know, there's been a federal program for a long time. If a child is shown to be sufficiently poor, they get free breakfast every morning and free lunch at school. And then on Fridays, before they go home, they get a 6-pound bag of food to take home with them for the weekend. That's my job. And also the webmaster and Facebook manager for NAEP. So this is the network of Anthem area assistance providers. So that's St. Vincent de Paul, the Anthem Cares through Service, the Anthem Giving Circle, and the Foothills Food Bank is all part of that. And so this is the overarching board that we more try to help each other than we do any add-ons to each other. So, but like I said, I run the Facebook and the website. And I really am glad to be here, and I hope that I make it to the board. Thank you.
I'm Ron Scherf, and I'm humbled by my company. My family moved here about 1.5 years ago in July of 2018 from Minnesota. So it was about like moving to Minnesota in February. My background is with the judiciary in Minnesota. I'm still working for them remotely. And when we were in Minnesota, I worked for the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District and served on their board for 7+ years. So I've got an extensive amount of board experience in an area, a different area from HOAs, but I think that brings something unique to the table. And I'm looking for the opportunity to get involved and become a part of the community here.
All right, thank you very much. What we would like to do, we've had some questions from the audience. If there's anyone that has not turned in a question that would like to, now is the time to do it. You will have again, I will ask the questions and you will have an opportunity, you have 2 minutes to answer them. And what we'd like to do is give everyone, every candidate an opportunity to make a comment about the question that's being asked. So again, time is of the essence, so if we can be as succinct as possible, that would be wonderful. And again, I'll start over here with you, Jeff. It says, have you had to deal with compliance issue while living in Parkside? Have you had any issues with compliance?
I have not.
Okay.
The only issue I've had is the Riverview project, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, somewhere along the way tonight.
Doug?
If I had to deal with a
Compliance issues.
compliance issue, all of them. The board hears the appeals. That's the opportunity of people who have been dinged about their CCNR violation, and it goes through the process. And if they appeal the outcome of what the staff determines according to the CCNRs, then it's appealed to the board. And we sit as a board, all 5 of us, and make a recommendation back to the staff as to what should be the outcome of that particular appeal of people.
Doug, I think the question is intended, have you personally had a compliance issue to you?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, you're too much an HOA.
Did I get dinged? Oh, golly.
Have you personally had any compliance?
We had this plant that wasn't a desert plant out on our, out near our driveway, and one of our nice staff people drove by and sent us a really nice letter. So we have.
That was a change.
Yeah, that was the only time that we've been dinged.
Okay, all right. What about you, Alex?
No, we've definitely never had any compliance issues. In fact, we actually, I think it might have been Murray Best sent us a letter thanking us for the appeal or something.
Nice yard.
Nice yard.
Nice yard postcard.
So, absolutely not. No compliance.
I've had no compliance issue, but I've had the pleasure of having something approved when I got the green light, so I got to go through that process. That was interesting and informative.
Okay.
I've been here over 15 years, 0.
I've had a few. I've had a parking violation. I've had landscaping issues. I'm a landscaper, right? I think I took a little too much liberty with that one summer when I was removing the lawn without permission. But I just felt like if I was knowing that I was going to be, what I was doing was according to the guidelines, I'd be safe. But, I got caught with that and quickly corrected it. But yeah, just those few things, I think.
Perhaps 5+ years ago, my wife and I were off on a vacation, and that was back when the board would send you an email with a picture of the terrible thing that you'd done. So there was this huge storm, there was this large branch laying in the gutter, and they sent me a picture that said, "You've got to get rid of this." So I quickly called my landscaper, told him to go get it. By the time he got there, it was gone. didn't even come from my yard. So that was my one time that I had a chance to make good.
I have not.
Is this a loaded question? Are you going to be some violations? Some I don't know about?
Right, we are recording this. That was just a question from the audience.
Okay.
I can't take credit, nor do I take any of the huff for the questions. The next question, and we'll start with you, Yvonne, on this one. What kind of community involvement are you currently participating in? And where are you, or where have you been engaged with both the business community and residents? And can you point to a specific event or organization that you're directly involved with? Multi-level question.
Yeah. There's been a section in the program. I am involved in the community neighborhood watch program in our area, and that was by default. I showed up at a meeting, looking for information, they handed me a packet and said, here's a neighborhood person. Beyond that, we haven't been here long enough to get involved in much. My husband is on the board of the North Valley Predators Lacrosse program, and so by default I help out with that. And I'm hoping, even if I'm not elected, to get involved in some of the committees.
Well, if I might take a chance to expand on what a CASA is, because I think it's important enough that I'd like to invite every one of you to look seriously at trying it. So my real job is to support this child in court. I'm the last person in court to speak. I'm the only person, I've been told this by several judges, I'm the only person they want to hear from. The people before me were all lawyers. Judges really don't care much for lawyers, they were one themselves. But so my job is to learn about the child, learn what they need, how we can help them from a state standpoint. They've got lots of money to help, they really do. Your Arizona lottery goes to support these kids. And so that's my job. So over a couple months period, I have full access to their history, to their medical records. I go and talk to their teachers, and then I report to the judge.
So they're specific, just for my own curiosity, they're specifically in the Anthem area? Or is it
No,
all
it's
of Greater
Maricopa
Phoenix?
County.
Oh, all of Maricopa County?
Right.
Oh, okay.
There's about, see, I just saw the statistics. There's 2,000 CASAs in all of Arizona, and there's 16,000 kids that need help. And there's about 9,000 kids just in Maricopa County. And yes, we do have some right here in Anthem.
Is the question specific to Anthem stuff?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I would assume so, since you're running for the Anthem Board.
Yeah, well, Arizona-wide, I do the scholarship fund where I direct that, where we receive scholarships and distribute them to even local Anthem schools as designated by the donors. Mainly I'd say just local PTA type stuff, school associations.
Okay. Sherry, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have it covered. I served on the board as secretary. I've been on the ARC, policy committee.
And for those, that's the Architectural Review Committee.
And I think the only committee I haven't been on is finance. I'm going to try that next too. I think I'm well involved with the community here.
Thank you.
So I was one of those foster kids, at-risk kids, so I appreciate the work you've done. I also do a lot of work with at-risk youth. Much of it is in California still because I haven't moved my resources here, but my business set up a program by which we train at-risk youth on how to navigate computers from hardware to software so they can get a decent paying job doing IT support. for entry-level, in many of the IT companies that are in the Bay Area. I also have worked with the USAPA recently to get, which is a pickleball-specific program, to get pickleballs and paddles to group homes and foster homes out in the Sacramento region, because I believe that some of the kids having a resource helps them sort of transition out of some bad habits. I've also done a lot of, I'm working with the Tohono O'odham Nation here in Arizona to set up a program by which I can train them and some of the tribe members there on use of computers and get them MCSE certified. That is already in the works. I believe I've been working IT and had a very good career, and it's allowed me some resources to do mainly sort of daddy taxi type things now, but I'm also involved in trying to grow programs that will grow beyond me, that will help people in communities that need it. And because my background is in computing and in IT infrastructure, I of course have gravitated towards that. There are some that I'm missing, but that should give you kind of an idea of who I am.
Throughout work in corporate America, you do a lot of community volunteering events. So I volunteer regularly with Boys and Girls Club, St. Mary's Food Bank. Particularly with Anthem, I haven't joined one of the architectural boards or anything like that, but I can tell you one of the things me and my wife.
A little bit louder.
Yeah, sorry. One of the things me and my wife like to do with an Anthem is we go out and on our walks, we take a bag and we pick up trash. One of our pet peeves is litter, and picking up trash is how I've kind of been volunteering with an Anthem. But I decided that most of my volunteering is through organizations like Boys and Girls Club and St. Vincent de Paul and stuff like that.
Other than the time that I spend on the Parkside Board, and especially as the president of the board, there are a whole bunch of other activities that are involved that are periphery with the ACC, with the country club, and with the villages, trying to bring together that overall group together so that there is more unification and collaboration and cooperation between the different organizations. Other than that, I'm retired, and so my wife says, don't do too much because I have a tendency to get way over involved, and so I've limited my activities to my community through the association.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, this is pretty special, being serenaded in the background.
Makes us speak louder and enunciate very well.
Exactly. So I'm an very active member in our Chamber of Commerce. We meet several times a month. I'm also part of the Leadership Academy program, which Chris is here, and Chris is kind of our leader in this Academy program. We met this morning for about 4 hours. We had Bill Gates come in and to give a little talk about what his job is and how he represents us, along with members of the ACC. They came in and kind of explained their role in our community. Debbie Lesko, a representative from her office, was in this morning, as well as Dino Cotton. So getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce has really showed me how important it is to participate in local government and be the voice of the people. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing for everyone.
Thank you. For the Parkside candidates, how many board meetings have you attended in the past year, and how familiar are you with the governing documents for Anthem Parkside? And we'll start with you.
Okay. I have not attended a meeting. They're on Thursday evenings and have conflicted with my son's violin practice, number one. And number two, I've never had the feeling that I needed to attend one. And I would assume the typical Anthem resident doesn't show up at those meetings. I am a bit concerned that when I look at the minutes online. As a resident, I can't go online and find up-to-date minutes. So I guess, having now learned that, and I didn't even investigate that until recently, I would be more likely to attend meetings in the future.
I have not attended any of the Parkside Board's meetings because I just moved here last November. I did attend the Country Club Board and the Anthem Board. I was very much, in a minor way, instrumental in the dog park. And some people like that, some people don't. I'm sorry to say that it took so long to get done that my dog's now too old to enjoy it. That's all right.
You did a great job.
I do know what they do and how they work and how important they are. So.
I've attended one Parkside meeting, and I had the privilege of sitting in on one committee meeting lately, landscape design or design guideline meeting. I attended one ACC meeting in the last year as well. That's it.
I've attended 90% of the Parkside Board meeting along with council meeting. I'm very, very familiar with all the governing documents. And I feel to be a viable candidate for Parkside Board, you really need to attend. Not all HOAs operate the same, and they have variances. And you need to understand and be visible in open session, and when there's comments, make some comments that are bothering you and give good replies. But you really have to get involved in what's going on.
I have not attended any of the meetings, however, I'm very familiar with the rules, and when we were moving over to Parkside, I made sure that I became an expert in them so that I didn't have the questions from my realtor, so I'm very good. And plus, you guys have done a great job putting it online, which is awesome, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the governing docs, the CCRs, all of that. I mean, booklet when I moved in, the website, I stay afloat with all of that. I go on the website very periodically, I check the meeting minutes. So no, I have not attended the meeting, but I can assure you I know what's going on in the community.
And then for the ACC candidates, the same question, how many of the ACC Board meetings have you attended?
In the past year, I probably have attended 4, maybe 5 of the formal evening meetings, and about the same number of other ad hoc meetings necessary for the collaboration between the different departments. Do I know how it works? Basically, I know that it's the overall organization overseeing different aspects of our community. This building, other buildings, the major park, the dog park, Paseo, landscaping, not the parking, just the landscaping. Yeah, I think I'm very familiar with the activities of the ACC. It's a $12 million business overseeing a community that's about 30,000 people. So it's very similar to some of the organizations that I've been responsible for.
Thank you. And Jeff?
I have not attended any. When I moved to Anthem, when I built my house and moved here, my primary focus was establishing my family in the community. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. So basically I spent a lot of time at the Anthem Community Center playing basketball. And then establishing my business, being a real estate professional. And I'm very familiar with how things work, and I'm very familiar with the CCNRs. I explain it to people quite often.
Then this just segues right into the next question. We'll just start with you, Jeff. So, hey, why do you want to be on the ACC board?
Why do I want? So when I moved into my house in Circle Mountain Ranch, I was one of the first people to move in. Our model was closed, sold, and Pulte was literally moving the furniture out when I received a letter in the mail from Eldorado Developments. They wanted to build 183 houses behind my house in a wash. It lit an internal fire inside of me. I was very upset. I went door knocking because I figured, did other people receive this letter or was it just me? Because according to the developer, they had to hand this letter out to everyone that would be affected by the 183 homes. I started knocking doors. People weren't getting this, and I knocked at least 80 homes, and people were shutting doors on me, moved out the blinds. I'm not trying to sell you anything, I'm just trying to inform you on something. It lit that fire, and I was so surprised how many people did not know what was going to happen behind our homes. It had nothing to do, at first I was upset because of the views and the premium lots that we had paid and bought. I was more concerned about the harm that could happen to people when the 1,000-year reign came. So to answer your question, I have this internal fire. I want to be the voice of the people. I want to help people out. Seeing what happened with the whole review project really opened my eyes that if we as a community were in front of that a little bit more, we would have had a fight. I've attended Rio Vista Planning Commission, Phoenix Planning Commission. I've gone to about 8 or 9 with the city of, with ACC and tried to fight these people. And I learned that it's the master plan and we have to abide by the master plan. I want to be the voice of the people. Thank you.
And same thing, Doug. What do you
As I
want to do?
indicated, ACC is a $12 million a year business. And that business is based on the funding that comes not only from the business side of what's here in our community, but also the homeowners, myself and everybody else included. My background primarily is in finance, and I understand how it works and how it should work. And we take and expend these funds in an efficient and proper manner. That's my primary focus. Secondarily, this community has an enormous landscape to take care of, as you're well aware. And not only is HOA Parkside, but also ACC is really responsible for it. And I think that we need to be ahead of the needs to be able to keep this community clean, to be able to keep it properly landscaped, to keep our parks in a manner that they should be. And I think really that we need to be able to assure and make sure that our community businesses know that the community is in support of them because they are in support of us. This is a really unique community because almost everything that you need is right here. If you want to go down the freeway, great, and we do, but with the continued growth coming to the north, it's going to have a significant impact on us, and we need to be ahead of it, not behind it.
Thank you. And then Alex, why do you wish to serve on the Parkside Board?
Yeah, a lot of the same reasons when we give our introduction, because I like to volunteer. It's the main thing. I want to give back to the community that I live in, that my family's in, that my kids are going to grow up in. As all the people continue to move to the North Valley to Anthem, I want to make sure that Anthem remains what it is and why my family moved here. I don't want to see a change. I want to see also proper governance and fiscal responsibility with this $12 million budget. I want to be the voice for the people, I've talked to my community members. I hear a lot of things about that dog park and some other things that have taken place. And I asked them, well, did you have a say? And a lot of voices aren't being heard. So I want to be that person that can get their voice out there for them. And overall, get back to the community that I live in.
So a couple things. One is we chose Anthem because it is extraordinary. I mean, in just about every way. We can go down the streets at night. My wife can jog without fear. We have, you guys have done a wonderful job controlling growth. The schools are fantastic. The park's amazing. I mean, you probably heard all that before. I'm still vibrating because I'm still new enough to see how amazing it is. Maybe people are jaded, but it is awesome. I want to participate in that and make sure that we maintain that focus and that people look and acknowledge that yes, we are an amazing community and we need to work to keep it that way. Another thing of sort of way down the list is we have awesome processes here that are fully fleshed out. As an IT guy that worked in continuing improvement and stuff like that, we got to sort of, my little pet peeve is, can we automate some of the processes that we have to drive to hand in papers? Can we do more stuff online? But that's way down the list. What I really want to see is that we sustain the kind of community feel that we have here. We have a great spectrum of demographics here, which is awesome, and we hopefully the growth that I was worried about. I saw that happen in Northern California, and I was a participant in fights against some of the developers. Some were successful and some weren't. But I've seen the landscape, and I know the language that you need to use in order to try to sway people. I went from adversarial to friendly to kind of a mixture of both. And hopefully we can grow in smart here, intelligently, because we're going to have to grow, it looks like. But we don't want to grow willy-nilly. My time is up. Oh, I have 30 seconds, but I'm good. I'll riff too long.
Mine's really simple. It allows me to take an active role in governing here and maintaining our amenities and in protecting our property values and growing it through responsible management.
Okay, thank you.
I see myself on the board as a voice of asking what if a lot. Try to think outside the box, asking a lot of questions, not just going with the status quo all the time. Doing a lot of research when issues come up, so we can make informed decisions. Making little improvements here and there, I think, is important, to not just, again, to accept the way we do things as a given, but continue to look for ways to improve just how we do things on the board and as a community generally. So even those little things down the road that Rob mentioned, like a little efficiencies to improve things, can be a big help, because that's the kind of legacy we're leaving that for the next board as well. And so, yeah, I just want to be able to serve my community to my fullest capacity, and I think I have something to offer.
I think you do a nice crescendo over there.
I guess I need to finish introducing myself. My name is Robert Homer. I'm a realtor, and I work for Century 21 Vineyard Estates. That's a different Century 21. We were at the outlet malls for 20 years. We recently moved to Happy Valley. I've been with them for 7 years now. So my real focus, the reason I want to be here, is to protect Parkside. Well, I've also witnessed what's happening in Circle Mountain. That's a travesty. If you look carefully at the layout of where those houses are going to go, that is a flood looking for a place to happen. And it really is going to happen. And they say a 1,000-year flood, that happens about every, maybe another 10 years. So I want to protect Parkside, which is really the majority of Anthem. That's what I'm here for. And by the way, I'd love to help the kids. I know from my time working on the dog park, believe it or not, I discovered that the kids, our younger kids, don't have a good place to practice soccer. They're missing some fields. Gosh, why do we've got a little bit of extra land, why don't we use some of that? It's not too expensive. So that's something I'd like to look at. Thank you.
I firmly believe in volunteering and supporting the community that I live in. I particularly want to serve on the board because the governing documents require that the board act reasonably and not arbitrarily or capriciously. I've seen a lot in Nextdoor and Facebook with people saying that the board has randomly sent them a violation, or they're unreasonably fining me. And I'm thinking, I believe the board does a lot of things right. And I think that needs to be brought to the forefront more. And in those instances where people are left feeling that they are not heard or not treated fairly, the board needs to be more transparent and express to the extent they can the reasons for their decisions. So, and I also want to apologize for my voice. I stutter a little bit and have a bit of a speech issue, only because of some radiation therapy I had. So I do apologize if it's difficult to understand me from time to time.
And again, we can go back to you, Jeff. If your candidacy is unsuccessful, would you consider serving on some committees?
Absolutely. If there was a committee that I felt that I would be able to give back to, I would definitely partake in a committee.
Okay, all right. And then Doug, I know you're currently on some committees, so that's kind of a mute question for you, but maybe you would like to expound on it some?
Well, Bill Babbitt is really on my case that if I am not successful in this, that I come back to the finance.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, if there's another committee that needs something and it's a skill that I have, absolutely, I would sign up for that.
Okay.
Any way I can give back to the community, once again, I live in the community, raising kids in the community, if I can contribute, why not?
Without question, I would participate, and when you're successful, I'll take that spot in the finance committee.
Hey, there's an opening already.
Oh, I already served.
Yeah.
Your finance committee's next to it.
You can be on the board and be on the
Yes.
committee. Yeah.
I would definitely do that, yeah. Any committee, the policy committee seems the most intriguing to me.
What did you say, intriguing?
Intriguing,
Okay,
yes,
all
policy, that's what government's about.
Anywhere I can help.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. Very good. And then we have a question here for the Parkside. How strictly do you believe the CC&R should be followed? That's a pretty open-ended, but Alex, we'll start there with you, since this was from Parkside.
Yeah, I think they need to be followed in their entirety. I mean, why else do we have them? And, we can't have deceptive practices where one member has to follow and abide by, but the other member can slide by. That doesn't align. So I think if it's in there, we're going to follow it. If it needs to be tweaked, then let's tweak it and look at it. But I don't think we should be subject to different rules depending on what house is yours or whatnot.
Okay. Thank you.
I concur. I think that the rules are obviously in place and have been very successful. The outliers that have issues or continually run into things generally are a certain type of person that will make, even if you change the rule, they will find a new way to sort of exploit that. However, there are probably times where there are things that didn't age well. Maybe there needs to be a review and a small tweak here and there, but absolutely we need to abide by the rules. That's why this community is awesome.
Did you want to make a comment, Jerry?
Yes, there's other governing things besides the CC&Rs, the design guidelines, the initial use restrictions, and sometimes people get them a little mixed up. The CC&Rs, we do have to follow, and to amend them, we need, I believe it's 66, 64% of all lot owners, one vote, and we hardly get, we just get 10% for elections. So to change it it really would take a vast majority that would be, it's almost
A
impossible.
lot of door knocking.
Yes. So,
That raises a really good question. I mean, if we think we would have a hard time changing our CC&Rs, that's a problem, because then we're dysfunctional really as an organization. So that just sparks a question for me, how do we fix that? But, thank you for that, Shay. But definitely we should enforce all the rules, and I think as has been said, that's what makes us a beautiful and functional community, to be very consistent in the application and enforcement of the rules.
Can I just make another statement? I think people are getting the CCNRs mixed up with the design guidelines, the initial use restrictions, which can be amended. And our design guidelines, we amend each year, we update. So just wanted to clarify something.
Yeah, the covenant and restrictions were given, they were passed down to us.
Right.
No one from the Anthem board or.
Yeah, we do need to be able to change those though too, and not just simple little, design guidelines for how, home improvement and curb appeal and all that, as important as that is. And I think that is super important, that we enforce all the rules so that we maintain a standard in the community, keeping property values high and keeping out the riffraff.
You leave me alone.
Robert.
We're all human, the board is human, we're going to interpret things in each case based on the circumstances. We need to be very careful to do that with a careful eye on property values so that we don't lose sight of the true intent of the CCNRs, but we can still get the job done and let people get, a little bit of things done. So that would be my answer.
I believe they should be strictly enforced, but design issues or compliance issues that pose temporary hardships to people, I think we should take a compassionate look at it.
And then the next question, this would be for the Parkside Board, and we can start with you, Yvonne. Tonight, many of you have said you've never attended a meeting, but at the same time you indicated that the board needs to change, be made more accountable or more open. And then how would you know that this is not being done if you've never attended meetings?
Very good point. And I base my answer to that on the perceptions I get from my friends in the community.
I'm sorry,
And the perceptions of my friends in the community who are expressing their frustration at receiving notices that were for problems that were not associated with their property, for looking for information and not being able to find it. And so I think there are ways that we can improve.
I admit that I haven't been to a Parkside Board, I haven't been to the country club, but I guess my answer would be I read very carefully all the communication, be it an email or print, from everybody in Anthem. And I'm trying to find out if there's a question, what really was the intent. And I guess, so I won't say that the board needs to be changed, because probably it changes all the time anyway. So that would be my answer.
What's the question again?
They said, many of you have said that you've never attended a meeting, but at the same time you indicated that the board needs to change, or the board needs to be more reasonable or more open. So if you've never been to a meeting, how would you know how the board functions?
I've been to meetings, so I guess I can pass on that.
Sure.
Save time at least.
As I stated earlier, you need to go, you've got to see what goes on. There's nothing like being there in person, and we are all homeowners here, so you really have to, and HOA is different in different states and right here in Anthem. So I think it's one of those positive things that you need to do.
I can't wait to go to one. I have not been to one. And I know that if I'm a part of it, I'll immediately inject, a different level of energy. Beyond that, I don't know that it needs to be improved or not. I just know that if I land on it, it will be improved.
Yeah, so, I don't know if it needs to change. I agree. I haven't been to the meeting, like I said previously. What I do know is talking to community members, neighbors, colleagues who live in Anthem, people I talk to at the park or in a restaurant, hear a common thing, a lot of, some things like hard to find online, like she was saying. You gotta go through pages and expired links, and just to find one simple document, that's a pain point for a lot of people. So I'm not here to change how the board operates. I'm just here to make living in Anthem and following the rules a little easier for the people.
And then this is for the
Betty?
council. Yes, sir.
You might note that we have a board meeting next, a week from Thursday, on the 20th
February 20th.
of February at 6 o'clock in the room next door where all the noise is coming, or music is coming from.
The serenading.
And I welcome all.
I'll be there.
So this again is for the community council. So we'll start with you, Doug, if that's okay. So considering the design guidelines and the CC&Rs, do we consider and elaborate how the community residents evolve? For example, the backyard lights, parking on the street, smaller driveways, bigger vehicles parked on the street, blocking the street and so forth.
That's really not a council
That's
issue.
Parkside.
It's not so much,
ACC.
it's more of a compliant.
The Anthem Community Council is not responsible for the CC&Rs or the design guidelines. That is the role and responsibility of the Parkside Board and the ACs and the committee that oversees those. Parkside Board hears the appeals, as I'd indicated earlier, but ACC, the Community Council does not get involved with the CC&Rs. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and I think this, as it was pointed out to me, this was probably more directed to the Parkside Board regarding the design guidelines and the CC&Rs. Yeah. So we can start with you, Alex.
Betty, just to clarify though, what Doug said partially correct, not 100% correct. The ACC does have design guidelines and CC&Rs for the commercial businesses that we definitely get involved.
Right.
That's true.
For businesses.
That's
So
true.
if you two would refer to that part of it.
That's
That's true, Terry. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, considering the design guidelines and the CC&Rs, would you like to elaborate how the community residents evolve? And for example, the backyard, parking on the street, smaller driveways, all of the things that are in the CC&Rs, and some have been changed because we have seen that they need to change. So, do you think they should evolve and change?
Yeah, I mean,
with the needs of the-
CCRs were established and the community was built based on those CCRs. So some stuff could change based on growth, technology, and the way the world works is obviously different than back in 1999 when Anthem was first established. So there could be stuff that changed, but no, I wouldn't go revamp the whole CCRs. I mean, that's why everyone moved to Anthem. The guy came from Sacramento because he knows how great Anthem is. So change the CCRs? No. Tweak some things as stuff evolves and there's changes? Absolutely. That's how stuff works. So yes, I can see there being a change.
I think Anthem has been a model, at least as far as I've seen in the short time I've been here, for making those incremental changes, because the house I moved into has brick to enlarge the driveway. It has, neighbors have the rear lights. So I know that a few of those things were initially faux pas, but I think that as the community has evolved and people's needs have changed, there's been enough slack that people are able to grow with it or adapt. So I do also wholeheartedly agree that we don't want to go willy-nilly with party lights or whatever going on in the backyard or things that would cause distress to neighbors or lower property values. I think many of us are here because we want to be in a quiet, cozy bedroom community that's safe and calm. You know, no big trucks parked out in front of my house every night. That's awesome. So yeah, I think that adherence to the rules is great. Incremental change when necessary with the way you guys have been doing it is awesome. I wouldn't change it.
Sure, I know you're on the design commission.
The only thing was the cars with the CC&Rs. And several years ago, we spent quite a bit of money sending out postcards. Overwhelmingly, the majority did not want any parking on the street, so it would have never passed. The other things actually are the design guidelines and the initial use restrictions. And we recently revised the initial use restrictions, and every year we're updating the design guidelines. Things change, we're evolving. And we have to listen to the majority. That's the whole part. Not, 10, 15 people, they want something, but the majority doesn't, so we're a democracy. The majority rules.
So, yeah, we should evolve and make changes to the design guidelines, and hopefully even the CC&Rs, if we could figure out how to do that. If there was any flaw that we noticed, I'd like to believe that we can make an amendment generally. Yeah, I see that we make changes, and usually they're good. So far, what I've seen and heard about, especially in my landscaping business, where a lot of issues come up in regard to the design guidelines, the board has been doing a great job in the committees of receiving requests for changes and using common sense and allowing or rejecting requests. So there's a lot of room for that. I would just want to continue to see the rules applied uniformly for everybody, so that you don't have a neighbor saying, my neighbor over here only has one tree, why can't I? That kind of thing. The tree issue is one thing we can probably evolve on, because right now they're just getting too big for the small yards, and poor owners are afraid, they may not have the money to remove the tree or replace it, and so there's probably some room for accommodating the tree rule, maybe somehow encouraging a little more of the desertscape transitions.
I was going to say, we live in the desert, and there's good reasons why we are not allowed to have palm trees. We can't afford to feed them. But there are new plants that come along, so our plant rules need to evolve as new things come along that are water-conscious plants, and maybe get rid of some that are not working out as well. As far as the CC&Rs, I've had experience with that in other organizations. Sometimes you have to go to perhaps back to the state and ask for, help in changing things like that. Because there is somebody above our boards.
I don't know that the CC&Rs necessarily would need to be changed, and it seems as if Parkside Board has historically acknowledged the need to evolve and change things like the design guidelines. So I'd like to see that continue.
And this is for the Parkside candidates. Very lengthy, but I will read. I think the whole thing is essential. So I've lived here almost 2 years. When I first arrived, I heard people talk about the HOA Nazis, that the board was aloof, the members, they were out of touch, and that enforcing rules and the variety of other frightening assessments. While I have not experienced any of these things personally, I would like to know what you as a board would do to address these issues. And again, there's a lot of personal things that I can go over, the board being out of touch, not good management, not enforcing the rules equally, and so we can start with you, Yvonne.
To the extent somebody had that feeling, I would invite them to a meeting. I'd also invite them to coffee and say, you know, on what are you basing your decision? How can we help? How can we make it better?
Okay, thank you.
I guess I would say that, you know, we need to invite everyone, perhaps make it easier for people to come to the boards and experience what goes on. I don't think anybody would qualify as a Nazi in that regard. Well, maybe the president. Kidding. At any rate, I would try my best to listen and try to understand any comments that would come from a valid homeowner here in Anthem, especially Parkside.
It's a tough conflict there, and we don't want to get into like an us versus them kind of culture here with our government, if you will, our management company and our board. We have to sort of work together. Those two entities have to really, I think, really be in sync, first of all, and that's how we're designed to be, of course. And we don't want our boards to be, as it says in our bylaws, I think, to be meddling into the day-to-day affairs of our management company. But we want to be certainly knowing what's going on in terms of all the procedures in the management company and how they're carrying out the violations and whatnot, and making sure that attitude is good from the management company in their interactions with our owners, our members. So there's some like team building and culture work to do, organizational culture to do and to maintain. And from what I've seen, there has been a sort of edgier, there was like in our past, a little, you know, there's been some personality conflicts, like attitude and stuff coming from our management company when it came to applying the rules and citing owners for various violations, where I think owners had a legitimate concern that they weren't being treated kindly or considered. So, but lately I've seen like just all sweetness and light coming from our government toward our members, and I'm sure it's helping, and it's a relief to see. And I don't know if it's the little trainings we do with like how to deal with difficult people or whatever, but I think it's working, and I think we should make that our like motto, is just like niceness from our management.
Let me start off by, we have a wonderful management company. They do their best, they go beyond. If you have a problem, they will talk to them, come to our board meetings. A lot of times it's misconceptions. They don't know, they don't follow the design guidelines. Yes, we do have different tree specifications for the size of the lots. Small, you only need one tree. And we're constantly updating it. So I think it's knowledge. You need to know what the rules are. We're all homeowners. We want our values to go up, not down. We don't want a purple house next to us. Or we don't want a car with no wheels in the driveway. So I think that's where we have to go. Just remember, we're all homeowners here.
If I remember the question correctly, you know, it
It
sounded
was
like...
quite lengthy, but I would be happy to read it.
No,
again.
it's okay. So 9 times out of 10 when you run into those types of situations, communication and interpersonal relationships are what are going to resolve that. And we don't need to go into a big meta of that, but I'll give you an example. If any of you guys are online and have seen the Anthem stuff page, it is a half the time it's awesome and people are talking about great things that are going on. The other half the time it's toxic. People complaining about stuff, and half the time it's unfounded. But you'll find me in there trying to dig in and figure out, because it's all of interest to me, even though I'm not on the board, if I am not the successful candidate, having Anthem be awesome or successful or continue in the way it's been going is going to be a mission of mine. So I've always tried to peel back the layers of the onion a little bit, and so I'll talk to these people and find out. Usually, like Sherry said, it's a misconception. Somebody didn't understand the rule, or they didn't know where they could find the rule online, or they ran into a barrier and that just stopped them cold. And if you just give them a nudge and get them across the barrier, people will go on their own to kind of resolve their issues, because they've got a lot of emotional energy behind that stuff. But really, getting in front of them and saying, hey, I'm on the board, I heard your concern, let's talk about what's really going on, and peeling back the layers. 9 times out of 10 you can resolve that stuff with a conversation, or just helping them get to the resource that they're looking for. And you guys have all those resources already built online, and they're extensive. It's been awesome for me to use. I use that word a lot. I'll try to change that. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think Sherry made some good points. I think it probably comes down to a lack of knowledge. For someone to use pretty harsh language to describe the board members, it seems like there's a disconnect somewhere along the line. So, is that the type of person that doesn't upkeep their weeds in their yard, and they're upset that they got a notice, or they just didn't know you couldn't put a palm tree and they got the notice, So I think there needs, I guess your question was what I would do. So what I would do is I would approach that person. I'll take them out to lunch. I'm like, tell me what's going on. How are you describing the board like this way in the community that you live in? Have you went to a meeting? Have you, followed the meeting notes? Just try to figure out what they're thinking really, and then offer them some solutions. Let them know that, hey, I'll go to the meeting for you. I'll be a voice for you. Or do you have any recommendations? Do you have an example I can present? Something along those lines. So it comes down to communication.
Benny, before you go on,
I'm through with questions. We're going to go through the closing statement.
No, this is in response to your last question.
Oh, okay, sorry.
When I first got involved with the community, there were some very toxic circumstances. My board and I have been working for the past 5 years to get past that. And I think that through education of the staff, we only have 4. Through the education of the staff and the understanding of people of how they can relate with the staff. When people come into the office and they're all pissed off, it's difficult to get them to understand why things are the way that they are. But I think that today we have one of the best staffs this community has ever experienced.
I agree.
Awesome. I agree.
And as such, I think that whomever of you are successful in attaining a position on the board, recognize these difficulties as they are. Understand where the people are coming from and why are they so upset, if they're upset. 9 times out of 10, working with the staff, the issue goes away. It's that once in a while, somebody that just gets it in their head that it's their way or the highway, and we've got a problem. And so Kim and I and Betty sit on the Board of Appeals and we listen to it, and I can assure you 99 out of 100 it's because somebody just didn't understand, or they didn't want to understand. It's more probable that they didn't want to understand. And so I think that these kinds of community issues that we deal with, the staff that we have now is outstanding. And one of the things that I'll miss is working with them, because they are indeed very good.
I concur.
Yeah.
So now we'll do some closing statements. We'll start with you, Jeff.
Sure. So I've been selling real estate in the valley now for 13 years, and I've sold in all over the valley. I used to own a property management company prior to this, and I managed about 197 houses. So I had houses all over the west side, east side, and when I decided it's time to get married and raise my family, I did some soul searching. And obviously I've sold in Buckeye, Tonopah, Elmira, Surprise, Levine, Scottsdale, and I chose Anthem. I chose Anthem to raise my family, build my home, raise my family, build my business here. And some of it has to do with the CC&Rs and the stuff that is enforced within this community, because I don't want to live next to somebody that starts a towing company out of their house. That's very important to me. It's also important to me that my biggest investment, which is my home, appreciates in value. And how do you do that? With the CC&Rs and enforcement of the CC&Rs. Anthem's a special place. I've sold, like I said, in other master plan communities, and there's a reason why people choose these communities. And at the end of the day, I chose Anthem, and I'm very proud to be involved in Anthem, and I will be very proud to represent Anthem on the ACC.
Very good. Anthem is a very unique place. And the ACC has a large responsibility, not only with facilities and lands, but also with people. Their own employees, which there are a lot of. There are going to be some changes in the management staff of ACC here in the not very distant future. And I think it's very important that members of the board work with the new people that are going to be coming in, so that there is the same kind of direction and response in the ACC management as we've been able to develop in the Parkside. So I think it's very important that someone who has the experience and the knowledge of how to do that be elected to the board. And I'm really excited about being able to assist, to help, to mentor, and to keep my community in a way that continues to be one of the best communities around.
Yeah, so, along the lines of everybody else, I live in the community, raise a family in the community. I intend to stay in this community for a very long time. With that being said, I don't want to see this community going downhill. I want to keep it going up, trending up, sustaining the growth. What everyone likes, the property values. Obviously, I want to make sure that those continue to rise as well. Overall, I want to make sure that I can also be a voice for not only my neighbors, other community members, folks that can't make it to the board meetings, people that don't know how to use online to see what's going on. Overall, I want to, give some fresh ideas and continue to sustain the growth and keep the community safe.
So we're all going to be a little bit repetitive here. I had a lot of places I could have moved. We moved here after careful selection, and we love it here, right? So my mission is not to change anything or to be a catalyst. My mission now is to integrate with the community and do what I can to carry the baton for the next 20 or 30 years. I plan to do service here, and whether or not I'm successful in this particular go-around or with this group, I will find ways to fit into the Anthem community and help keep it in the direction that it's been going, because it is amazing. I hope you guys realize that. So, and hopefully you've gotten a sense of kind of the energy that I bring. I'm a high energy guy. I love things. I like to pick up people around me, but I also acknowledge that moving into this, I'm going to need to learn from people like Sherry and others, Doug, people who've been in there and have been doing things, and there's a set way of doing things. So again, the goal isn't to go in there and change anything, but it's to be learned, to be mentored, and to come in and carry the baton for the next 20 years.
As I said, I've been here over 15 years. We're not going anyplace. I love it here. Everybody has said the same thing, so I just want to be a part of the board. and be active in the community. Thank you.
So when it comes to service in the government, or in our case, an HOA council, you hear everybody say, I want to give back to the community, and I just feel like that's finally hit home with me, that is a real thing, to want to give back. And maybe it's not back so much as just forward, but because while we're grateful, we earned what we've received from the in the community. It's been a transactional, and yet there does come a time, I think, when a person needs to step up and offer what they can to improve the community. So that's what I'm about, and I see opportunities mainly to influence how we do things by sort of force of our grace and wisdom in how we function together. And I think so it's largely like personality based in how we can help get along with each other and also bring change. It's not easy just to have good ideas and try to force them on the community, but the value comes through the ability to cooperate. And so I think I would, as a board member, I would be able to have an influence and also facilitate the smooth functioning of the board.
I think it's already been mentioned tonight that we're going to have growth. I know some of you that in your small community don't see that growth in Anthem, but there's new subdivisions being built. Those new subdivisions are also part of Parkside. And that's going to cause pressure to change things that we've been doing for a long time. I'd like to be part of that resolution to figure out how we can help them. The people due north of here would love to be part of our group and use our park. We didn't let them because they didn't want to pay the fees. But things like that are going to keep coming back. So I'd like to be part of that resolution and keep this company or this city going. By the way, I'm not against this being a city. I'm one of those that I don't think I want to be Phoenix, because that has a whole different problem. But I wouldn't be against this being something other than an unincorporated part of Maricopa County. Thank you. And thank you all for being here.
No, I can't talk. Our family landed here because of friends, and I couldn't feel more blessed to be here. To really feel like now that we're here, I need to contribute where I can. I have mediation training, board experience. I think generally I see or try to see things on a very even keel, looking at both sides of issues. And I would like to see the Parkside Board grow in ways that enhance the community and maintain our property values trajectory. And I'd be honored to serve. Thank you.
So, unless anyone from the audience has any comments or questions, that basically concludes. Again, we want to thank you for being willing to step forward and volunteer your time and effort to keep Anthem the community in which we love to live in. And this is, I think, all of our goals.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.